There is a moment in some investigations when the case stops belonging to the police and starts belonging to everyone else. A moment when evidence is no longer examined quietly, but debated publicly. In the JonBenét Ramsey case, that moment came fast. Before investigators could agree on what the ransom note meant, before forensic testing was complete, before theories were fully formed, the story escaped. On this episode, we pause between part 4 and part 5 to talk about that moment, when the narrative took over the investigation. This is the mini episode bridging part 4 and part 5 of the JonBenét Ramsey case, and this is the Midnight Mystery Archive. In part 4, we examined the ransom note as a psychological artifact, how it was written, why it was unusual, and what experts believe it reveals about the author's state of mind. But almost immediately, the note became something else. According to Perfect Murder, Perfect Town, details of the ransom note began leaking to the press within days, sometimes inaccurately, oftentimes without context. And once that happened, the note was no longer just evidence. It became a symbol people projected meaning onto. Within weeks, the public learned the note was long. It referenced movies. It was written inside the house. But what the public didn't get was nuance. They didn't hear why length mattered behaviorally, why movie references weren't proof, and why handwriting analysis is inconclusive. Instead, they heard fragments, and fragments invite conclusions. Former detective Steve Thomas would later write that leaks, both intentional and accidental, hardened opinions before the evidence could be fully evaluated. Once people believe they understand a case, they stop listening. The JonBenet case became one of the first modern true crime media storms. Cable news ran nightly segments. Tabloids published speculative headlines daily. Experts debated live, often without access to full reports. According to Lawrence Schiller, investigators began receiving tips shaped not by the evidence, but by whatever theory was dominating the news cycle that week. The media didn't just reflect the investigation, it began to shape it. Psychologists who study belief formation point out something critical. Once a narrative takes hold, contradictory information doesn't feel clarifying. It feels threatening. If someone believed the ransom note meant staging, DNA felt inconvenient. If someone believed DNA meant intruder, the note felt irrelevant. The JonBenet case fractured along narrative lines. And 30 years later, those fractures still exist. For the Ramsey family, the shift was immediate. They went from grieving parents to public figures, to suspects in the court of public opinion. Every interview was dissected, every pause analyzed, every statement interpreted. And once the narrative took over, there was no way to separate fact from perception. The moment when story overtakes investigation isn't unique to JonBenet Ramsey. It's something we see again and again in unsolved cases. And it's one of the reasons the Midnight Mystery Archive exists. To slow cases back down, return to source material, and separate evidence from assumption. If you want to discuss this case or others like it with listeners who care about evidence, context, and respectful analysis, I've created the official Midnight Mystery Archive Facebook group. It's new. Come and follow it. You can find it linked in the episode description or search Midnight Mystery Archive on Facebook. It's a place where we can have thoughtful discussion, not hot takes. Now, we're going to turn to Part 5 of the JonBenét Ramsey case launching on Friday. In Part 5, we'll examine what happened after the case went public, how investigative missteps multiplied, how media pressure influenced decisions, and how myth slowly replaced method. Because in the JonBenét Ramsey case, the mystery wasn't just what happened that night. It was what happened after everyone started watching. Again, Part 5 launches this Friday. This has been a mini episode of the Midnight Mystery Archive. Until next time.